sure you feel, and especially because you can't see it, so you got to make sure you get all the folds. But there's the goozle.
Excuse you.
That's what Kaylee and I call the goozle. And there's that hair, that like dimple right here. Always make sure that's centered. And then you have your brisket here. So you want to make sure, just making sure before I flip them back over. So get everything pulled down. Which, once I get them sewn on, then I'll be able to, that's why I don't glue this. Because I'm going to be working up here first, and you don't want this glue setting until, so. If people are wondering, why did she only put that much glue on? That's why.
Oh, now he looks like he's yelling.
Yeah. He's big enough. Since I've opened it now, because it would have yanked all my clay work off getting this cape on, since it's so big and heavy. So now I can do my clay work. Just the basic, and then you can just to get clay under there, and then you can shape it once you get the skin on. Is there normally a muscle around there? So does the critter clay kind of? Well, this is for tucking your skin, your tucking skin. This is what you're tucking, so it adheres, and then it dries and it keeps it in place. Nice. This is also an added adhesive, but it also gives it bulk under your eyelids. You can put the creases in the eyelid, add detail to the eye, because you have your sculpting clay under there. So I always kind of, and then we're going to also tuck, I put a little clay down in the, because it grabs it, because we're going to tuck that tear duct in too, so. But you don't have to get, a lot of people get real fancy with their sculpting on their eyes, but until you start tucking this in, that's where your detail really comes from. There's no sense in getting, for me, there's no sense in getting real fancy here, because it's out here that you're not going to see that. Yeah, you do all this detail on the inside, and I just like to make sure there's plenty of clay so that I can have plenty to work with. So when this dries, it's more cracky, I guess you could say, whereas this doesn't. When you're smaller detail and stuff like that, it doesn't break away and crack. You know, you don't. It's not going to necessarily crumble like this might. It's going to hold its form better. I know a lot of people are real reserved on how much, like our instructor was real. It's like, you don't need that much clay, you don't need that much clay, but I like to make sure, I always think more is better because I like it to look nice and full, and especially this, the reference pictures that we looked at, they really had nice big ear bases and they really stood out from the head. So I want to make sure I have plenty of clay before I start sewing up, and even when I start sewing up, before I close it up, I can always add more if I need to.
Yeah.
But I think we'll start with that, and then if we need to add more, we can. Get it good and down, and I make sure I really fill in any gaps, because once it starts drying, if it, you know,
It'll shrink up.
yeah, you don't want any around the base of your bondo, or, you know, I really make sure I pack it in there good. But lots of paste right up to the base, because you can always clean it out of the hair later, but you really want that, especially when you have lots of nooks and crannies. help me go ahead and sometimes I go ahead and use this little metal. Helps me get the put the ears in place before I start sewing because they're so heavy on these bigger animals. Okay. And holds them in place for me. That while I work. Make sure the ears are where they're supposed to be before I start sewing it up because everything's just so heavy. And you're dealing with everything on a larger scale. See? And then it's easier to see, and everything stays instead of trying to hold that up while you're sewing. Because this stuff's so much, this larger scale, it's so heavy. As you can see, there are big things going on here at K&C Taxidermy, so make sure you subscribe so you can get notifications on everything that's going on here at K&C Taxidermy. We'll see you then.